Okay, as always, this is part of a playlist, and I'm putting out a new video every Wednesday. I know I sound repetitive saying that every video, but in previous series I didn't say that, and I get all these comments on why can't I access such and such video in the playlist? And the answer is simple: I haven't released it yet. I released a new video every week, every Wednesday for this series, Python 3. So if you're watching them as I put them out, the next video is not available yet, but it will be in a week. Of course, if you're watching this in the future, that's not a problem. Sorry I sound like a broken record, but if I don't say that, I'm going to get comments all the time asking me. And I think the answer is obvious, but I still have to say it every time. Now, this series, again, is on Python 3. And we're working a lot with different types of variables. And there are many different types, but we've mainly been working with integers, floats, and strings. There are other ones, but we haven't gotten into them yet. And we know, like if I set a variable like x to 5, and I say x, I can tell right there that it is an integer because it doesn't have a decimal point and there's no quotations around it. If I was to say y equals 5 and then get the value, if y equals 5 with quotations around it and then say y, we can see that this 5 now has quotes around it, meaning that it's a string. And if I was to say z equals 1.5 and I go z, I can tell it's a float because it has a decimal point there. So how do we check within the code what type of variable it is? Well, there's a few different things you can do. You can do type, and I can say x, and it says class int. And if I was to do type y, it says class string. So right there, type will tell me whether it's an integer or a string. But if I put in z for this, and it says float. Now, but if we wanted to actually put this into a statement of some sort, we kind of want to we want to check the value, not just find out the value, but we're going to check, is it an integer? Is it a string? Is it a float? So that's what we need to check. And we can check that with a function called isInstance. So we say isInstance, and is a function. So we're going to put these parentheses. Thank you. I almost said brackets. These parentheses here. And just like we did with the true, we're going to put in the variable we want to check, but we want to check what it is. We're not asking what type it is. We're saying, is it this or is it that? So we can say x, we know from earlier, is an integer, so I can check is it an integer. So is instance x int, and it will give me a true or false. I get a true because x is an integer. If I was to ask it if it was a float, I'm going to get false. I can ask it, is it a string? I get false because it's an integer. Of course, I can do the same thing, and again, I'm hitting up arrow here to go back through previous commands. I can change this to y, and now if I take the isInstance function and pass it the variable y and ask it, is it an integer? And the isInstance has other uses too, but for what we're working on now, we're checking, is it an integer? And in this case, false, because y is not an integer. Y is a string. True. And of course, if we did float, we would get false because it's not a float. And same thing if we were to take it and we were to pass it z, which is a float, we get true. So this is how we get a true-false on whether it is an integer, float, string, and of course I said there's other types of variables as well that we haven't gotten into yet, because these are probably the three you're going to use mostly. At least I do. So again, the two things we learned today is type, to check the type of string, kind of asking it, what is it? Where isInstance is asking, is it this? So type, what is it? isInstance, is it this? And of course, with a true-false, we can now use this in loops, like if statements or while loops, or other types of loops that we haven't gotten into yet in these series. So that's what we're going to work with next week. We're going to take this and we're going to expand on it and put it into a statement of some sort. So here we go. Thank you for watching. I hope that you have a great day. Again, always visit my site, filmsbychris.com. That's Chris with the K. See you next week, and I hope that you have a great day.